But Curtis, people know about this very public, long-standing feud that you've had with Sean Combs. So what brought you to this project?
Well,
Was there anything that surprised you when you were watching the footage?
that did surprise me at all.
What does someone do when they know the walls are closing in, but the cameras are still rolling? Because in the days before Sean Diddy Combs was taken into custody, he wasn't hiding. He wasn't laying low. He was filming, talking strategy, shaking hands in Harlem, managing his image like nothing was wrong. And that's what stunned people the most. This wasn't leaked audio from decades ago. This wasn't a rumor pulled from old headlines. This was real footage from the final moments before everything changed. And according to those who've seen it, what it reveals isn't panic, it's confidence. But that confidence raises a much bigger question. Did Diddy believe he was untouchable? Because once you see what happened behind the scenes, the story stops being just about a trial and starts becoming something much deeper. Section 1. The footage that changed everything. The footage begins quietly. No chaos, no dramatic music, just Sean Combs on the phone with his legal team, speaking calmly about strategy. He's not pleading, he's not confused, he's directing. At one point, he talks about things not being coordinated correctly. He says they're losing. But even then, there's no visible fear, just frustration, like someone used to being in control, suddenly realizing control is slipping. What makes this footage so unsettling isn't what he says. It's how normal it all feels. Because most people, knowing they're about to be arrested, would disappear from public view. Instead, he's still moving around openly, still being filmed, still thinking about optics. Reports claim this footage was never meant to be public. And that's exactly why it matters. It shows a side of him untouched by press conferences or rehearsed statements. A man balancing legal pressure while still performing confidence. And that's when viewers started asking the same thing. Was this calm real? Or was it an act? Because the more the footage plays, the harder it becomes to tell where the performance ends and where the truth begins. Section 2. A life lived on camera. To understand why this footage exists at all, you have to look at Diddy's relationship with cameras. For decades, he's lived in front of them. Music videos, reality shows, red carpets, documentaries. He didn't just tolerate cameras, he mastered them. People close to the project suggest that constant filming created a sense of control, the belief that anything captured could be edited, curated, shaped into a narrative. And in the footage, that mindset seems to follow him everywhere. There are moments where he appears fully aware of the camera, adjusting how he speaks, adjusting how he comes across. But then there are moments where something slips. Like when he goes out in Harlem, greeting fans, hugging people, smiling for photos. Publicly, it looks like connection, like loyalty, like love. But once he's back in the car, reports say his tone changes. He talks about needing sanitizer, about feeling dirty, about wanting to wash everything off. That moment hit people hard, not because it was loud, but because it felt unfiltered. And according to those involved in the documentary, that was one of the rare times he seemed to forget the camera was there. And once viewers noticed that, they started rewatching everything differently. Because if someone is always controlling the narrative, what happens when they lose track of the lens? Section 3. 50 Cent, and the question everyone asked. The moment Curtis 50 Cent Jackson's name appeared on the project, the internet reacted instantly. People remembered the tension, the jokes, the long history between the two. And immediately, the question surfaced. Is this about truth? Or is this about old beef? 50 Cent has publicly pushed back on that idea. He said the discomfort he felt around Diddy years ago never turned into violence, never turned into retaliation. It just stayed unresolved. And when asked why people trusted him with their stories, his answer was simple. They believed he wouldn't be scared to let the truth stand on its own. Still, not everyone was convinced. Some viewers felt his involvement automatically tilted the project. Others argued that without him, these voices never would have spoken at all. What complicates things even more is that not everyone in the series is anti-Diddy. Some still call him family, some still consider him a friend. And that mix, support, criticism, silence, is what gives the series its tension. Because the story doesn't tell you what to think. It lets you feel the contradiction. And nowhere is that contradiction heavier than when the conversation turns to Cassie. Section 4. Cassie, age, and the power gap. Cassie never sits down for an interview in this series. And yet, her presence is everywhere. When she entered Diddy's world, she was around 18 or 19 years old. New to the industry. New to fame. New to power structures most people never experience. Over time, reports and testimony painted a picture of a relationship shaped by imbalance. Not just in age, but in influence, resources, and control. The series is careful not to present speculation as fact. Instead, it focuses on context. Who she was when it began. Who he was at that time. And how difficult it is to recognize unhealthy dynamics while you're inside them. What struck many viewers was a comparison made later in the series. During the trial, there was widespread sympathy for Diddy's children, especially his daughters, who were around the same age Cassie was when the relationship began. People talked about how hard it must have been for them to hear graphic testimony. And then the question quietly emerged. Why didn't Cassie receive that same grace when she was that age? That contrast forced viewers to slow down, to reconsider timelines, and to realize how often age is forgotten once time passes, even though the impact doesn't fade. But the courtroom didn't focus on feelings. It focused on charges. And when the verdict came back, it only deepened the confusion. Section 5. The verdict that left people divided. When the jury delivered its decision, it wasn't clean. It wasn't simple. Diddy was found guilty of certain offenses and cleared of others. 2 jurors later spoke publicly about their reasoning. They said they felt confident in their choice, comfortable with the outcome. But the public reaction told a different story. Some felt justice was served. Others felt powerful figures always receive the benefit of the doubt. The question wasn't just about guilt or innocence anymore. It became about perception. How much weight does fame carry in a courtroom? How does media coverage shape belief before a trial even begins? And when allegations span decades, how do jurors separate evidence from narrative? The series doesn't answer those questions directly. It asks them and lets them linger. And as those questions spread online, another debate exploded alongside them. Was this really just about one man? Or was something bigger being judged? Section 6. Was hip-hop really on trial? Some people argued that the trial wasn't just about Diddy. They said hip-hop culture itself was under scrutiny. 50 Cent rejected that idea completely. He said silence would have looked like approval, that if no one spoke up, the entire culture could be seen as accepting behavior it doesn't stand for. Others disagreed. They felt one man's actions were being used to paint an entire community. That hip-hop, like any culture, isn't a monolith. The documentary walks a careful line here. It acknowledges Diddy's contributions to the culture, the impact, the influence, the empire he built. But it also makes one thing clear. Celebrating a legacy doesn't erase accountability. And holding one person responsible doesn't mean condemning everyone else. That tension between protection and honesty might be the most uncomfortable part of the entire story. Because it forces viewers to ask, when does loyalty become silence? And when does silence become complicity? Section 7. The interview that never happened. One presence is felt throughout the entire series, without ever appearing. Sean Combs himself. The director has said that from the beginning, the goal was to sit down with him, to hear his side, to ask questions no one else could. Questions about his childhood, about the people who helped build Bad Boy, about the decisions that shaped everything that followed. And maybe the biggest question of all, looking back now, was it worth it? That interview never happened. Instead, the footage took its place. And in a strange way, it might have said more than words ever could. Because when someone controls their image for decades, the rare moments they don't may reveal the most. Not explanations, but patterns. Conclusion. The question that doesn't go away. By the time the series ends, one thing becomes clear. This isn't a story with a neat ending. It's about power, about image, about what happens when success outpaces accountability. Some will see Diddy as a man targeted by the system. Others will see someone finally facing consequences long delayed. But maybe the most important takeaway isn't about him at all. It's about how easily narratives are shaped, how quickly loyalty turns into silence, and how often uncomfortable truths are ignored until they can't be anymore. Because in the end, the cameras never stopped rolling. And now that the footage is out, the story belongs to everyone watching. And the question still hangs in the air. When the truth is finally seen, who was really in control the whole time?